Good day, this is Ray. Today is Saturday, April 29th, 2023. For me, another day of social distancing. Hope that you, family, friends, and loved ones are doing well, staying safe. And I was just thinking this morning, as generally I do. Been up since probably 4, something like that. Did take some sleeping pills last night to help me stay asleep. And over the years, I've faced some scary things. And in particular, 4 years ago, May 2019, I was diagnosed with lupus. And before that time, I had never dealt with a hospital, never dealt with a health plan, doctor's bills, hospital bills. I had never been in an ambulance until that point, to that summer. And taking medications for the first time and learning how to read claims and understanding all that. And that was all scary. And also getting my blood drawn, staying in the hospital for extended periods of time, having extreme joint pain, using a cane, losing a lot of weight. I mean, down 50 pounds from my normal weight. And making a huge career decision to step back from a role that I was in, moving back home with my parents, losing a lot of relationships. And then, of course, the pandemic and being immunocompromised. All that is scary. And, I look back at the time, and it was definitely a huge test for me. It totally changed me. It was a paradigm shift for me. And also another thing that I had to face because it was just tear me apart was my consumer debt. And that's all I had a few years ago. So February of 2021 was when I started to keep track of my debt month to month. I was facing a consumer debt close to $100,000, and I'm sure I went over that at some point, but I just didn't start tracking until February 2021. So my total consumer debt was $97,520.57. As of today, it's $64,040.35, which means I've paid off $33,480.22 of that debt, which is approximately 34% of the original debt. And that's fantastic. That's only part of this picture. Paying off the debt is great, but if I were paying it off without a plan, and let's say years from now, when I'm out of consumer debt, I sit back and say, oh, great, I'm out of consumer debt now, I can just go crazy and spend my money on whatever I want. That's not going to happen because I learned how to budget starting in May of 2021 from Brad Long at ZeroDebtCoach.com. And it's really changed everything for me. I'm not having the same spending patterns. I'm accounting for every dollar. I see the value of the dollar. I realistically know my income and how to spend that income. And looking at that huge number, $97,520.57, the only thing I could think of was to file for bankruptcy because it didn't seem like there was any way out. Let's say that I did, and the bulk of that debt was wiped out because all of it wouldn't be. A big part of my debt is student loans. Currently, my student loans account for 62% of my total consumer debt. So I would still have a big chunk of that debt to deal with. Okay, so fine, getting out of debt is great. Like I said, that's only part of the picture. The bigger thing is that I know how to be responsible with the income that I take in bi-weekly, month to month, whenever, through surveys. So I would say that's the hardest part of the journey is facing the reality of having the debt. And for you, it might be 1,000, it might be 5,000, it might be 20,000, 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is. When you see that number, for me, I said, okay, it's not going to get any worse than that. I'm not going to allow it to get worse than that. I'm not going to go backwards each month. I'm going to progress forward. and pay down his debt. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm encouraging you to face your debt. So going back to the numbers, month to month, I started off the year at $67,478.48. In January, I paid off $895.83. In February, I paid off $839.73. In March, I paid off $854.91. And in April, paid off $847.66, which means I'll be beginning May with a consumer debt of $64,040.35. Very close to being under $64,000, which is fantastic. That's great. The total for the year that I've paid off is $3,438.13. I had a setback with my emergency fund, which I talked about briefly, I think last week, where my smoke detectors were going off. And I ended up getting an electrician to come in to replace those smoke detectors, as well as fix my ceiling fan that I had installed when I first moved in, that replaced a chandelier. When I had it installed, I didn't realize that it was installed in the wrong type of box to be able to hold it up. So anyway, got that all fixed out. My emergency fund last month in March was at 72%. Unfortunately, I faced a setback, and now I'm at 58%. So what does that mean? I'm going to have to just continue on and throw as much money as I can into the emergency fund until I get it to 100%. I'm not going to accelerate my debt pay down. So it may be that I don't accelerate my debt pay down until next year, and that's fine. That's the purpose of the emergency fund, is it keeps me from having to borrow to handle emergencies. So it's, it can be a little demoralizing saying, dang, when am I ever going to, get back to 100% funded? Yeah, I can't think that way. I think, excuse me, last year when I completely wiped out my emergency fund, and excuse me, I got to blow my nose. Yeah, last year when I completely wiped out my emergency fund, that was super demoralizing, to pay off the unexpected tax bills that I had. I looked at that as almost a failure, but then I thought about it a little bit more. I said, you know what? That's the reason I had the emergency fund. Because let's say I went back $5,000 on my journey, that would have, I don't know, that might have made me stop, being this persistent and wanting to get out of debt and being as strict as I am when it comes to budgeting. I don't know. Maybe that's not my personality anymore. Maybe I would have just pressed on, but it would have sucked having to go further back into debt. But I'm not going further back into debt. As you can see, I'm paying roughly $850 a month off at my normal pace, which is about a payment of $1,012 that I'm actually paying towards the debt, the actual payment. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're watching this, if you have debts, whether it be small or large, write that number down. And then keep track month to month of your progress. Of course, learn how to budget. Stick to the budget. Don't go back to your old ways. Stop going out for coffee. Stop going out to the movies or whatever. You have to sacrifice for that. It's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. And if you have kids, talk to your kids about this early, because, they have a trust. Kids have a trust with their parents that they don't have with other people. So, if they're, young, definitely have those conversations. If they're going into the workforce for the first time, sit down with their pay stub and say, okay, now you got this money. Let's figure out how to assign this money so that you're setting up your budget. And they're going to feel proud about that. And they're going to, have savings, and, prayerfully, they're not going to go into the type of debt I did or many others did. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. But if you made it this far, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. You don't want to post my videos. You can find me at youtube.com/@Chronicles of Ray. Feel free to share with your friends, family. And I will see you next time. I'll see you in May. Y'all take care.